Okay, today is going to be a review for the cumulative test, which is happening on Thursday. But I'm starting with Desmos. Why? Because we have a project where you need to draw a picture. All right. Let's say that you decide, for my drawing, I really would like a half of a circle. Who can think of something I could put in here that could cut my circle down? Yes. Ooh, the domain and the range. Okay, so everybody right now, would you please type in x squared plus y squared equals 11. And I'd like you to see if you can figure out, I'll start with the easy one, how to cut this circle in half and make it right on this line, make it only have the left half of the circle showing. So in other words, I don't want this part of the circle. Just play with it, play with the numbers until you get it right. I'm going to do something in the domain here to make that happen. I'm going to pause for a second and see how intuitive you are. Okay, so we figured it out. In the brackets, we're going to put x is less than 2. Now, who's smart enough to figure out how to get it down to only this part? Like, I should circle it. Get rid of this part, so all we have left is that part. Does anybody know how to do that? We're going to only have a quarter of a circle left. I believe you that you know. Everybody try to figure this one out. I'm going to pause for a second while you figure that out. Somebody that figured it out, tell me. What do I have to put in parentheses now? Or brackets now? Raise your hand if you got it. Yes, ma'am. All right, so I'm going to put a little brackety thing around y is greater than 0. And it's not too tough to get instant feedback, like it's really nice, isn't it? You're like, oh, I can see it's what I wanted. And what if it had been, oh, I did the wrong way? You probably just have to change it to x is greater versus less than 0. You know what I mean? So easy to get your instant feedback on these. Okay, so that's just a little bit of hints on how to make the Desmos graphing app work well for you for your project. And I am going to move now into the new stuff. If you now could find in Schoology the file posted for today, today's date is 10/10. I'm going to pause for a second while you find the notes. All right, while you guys are opening up this file on Schoology, just a quick reminder that tomorrow's an unusual day with the PSAT being given in the morning. And then that's our last day of review, and then the actual test will show up on Thursday. Why is this test super important? Can anybody tell me why it's more important than a normal test? Yes?
Because, well, first, if it's on this test, but if you want to retake another test, then it works for that.
So how could this count as actually 2 tests for you? All right. So imagine person X is sitting right here. They're imaginary, okay? But they have a C on one of their tests previously. Do you get that on Thursday when we take that test, it's going to count as a test? Everybody has to take it. It's not just only for retakes. It's everybody takes that cumulative test. And it can also count as a retake of a previous test. Okay? Now, what would be really sad is if the kid wanted to make it count as a retake but hadn't actually done their corrections. You have to have your corrections done to qualify for that. If you just were like, well, I kind of wanted to do my corrections but I never got around to it, sorry. If you don't do the corrections, you haven't done the stuff that's required to qualify for a retake. So you might be asking yourself, when can I do those corrections? Well, I did. I've given you a little bit of time. I had some time in class the other day, but I understand many of you couldn't get it done there. You can do corrections for our most recent test or even the one from before, as long as you get them done either today after school or on Thursday morning. That's right before this cumulative will be given. On Thursday morning at 7:30, that's another time that you can come in. Normally I'm available at 7:10, but I have a meeting I can't get out of with the principal. So 7:30 on Thursday or today after school. You can pick one of those 2 times. And again, I understand some of you have put it off, and that's you're getting out of the last minute. So you need to do corrections if you want to qualify for a retake. So that's a big moment for that test. All right, so by now I think everybody should be here. Show me that you've got this picture up on your iPad, then I'll know you are with me. Rápido, por favor. All right, thank you. I have one person I'll come and check on in a second. All right, why do I say chapters 2 and 3? Because, are we just skipping a chapter? Kind of. The very first chapter was algebra review, and we let you have an insta retake on that. Like, you could take it over like the next day if you wanted to. So that one you've had your chance to take the retake on. We're just doing cumulative on chapters 2 and 3. And one of the topics is kind of like this. It's a function. Do you know the name of that function? I don't know the name of that function. It's not an absolute value. It's not a parabola. It's not the butterfly, the 1 over x function. It's not one of the classics. So what do we call it? F of x. All right, and I've actually got two of them here that are one's hiding behind the other. We're going to make the blue one called f of x. And one of the things I think is kind of neat on my smartboard that I can do, it's easy for me to obviously to move things up. Like if I just move it up a little bit, that's really easy. And I hope you would know that this would have been called f of x and then moved up 2, so it's plus 2. Raise your hand if you feel like I could have done that. Okay, good. Where it gets more complicated is where the shape changes a lot. So I'm going to show you one like that. Watch what I can do with this. I can take it from where it was and do flip. Now, officially, it's not called a flip. Have a seat, girls, and get your file open for today. It's 10/10, the 10th of October. All right, I'm going to do what's called a left-right flip. Flip, left, right. That's what it was in the first place. All right, I'm going to do a left-right flip. Doesn't it look a lot the same, but it's like plays with your head. You get that is backwards? All right, now, if I wanted to make it an actual mathematical reflection across the y-axis, do you get how that would have been a left-right flip, also known as a, what is that called again? A what kind of reflection? A horizontal reflection. All right, I'm going to pause for a second. We have some new kids coming in. So then, what's the equation for this guy? If this one's called, the blue one's f of x, the red one isn't f of x. It's f of x except different. So what do? I put a negative to make it reflect. Where should the negative go? On the inside. Okay, the horizontal reflections are on the inside. I'm putting a negative right there, and there's my equation. F of negative x. Negative's on the inside. All right, yes?
So, because it's a reflection, do not do the graph for on the inside to move it over.
Good question. So, if this had just been moved over, this blue one, if it had just been moved over, see, let me show you. Do you get it? It isn't just moved over? It's not the same as just moved over, okay? It's not been moved over. It's been just reflected, okay? You can't do this by just sliding it over because, look, it doesn't match up. See what I mean? That was not a move to the left. I'll show you what a move to the left would have looked like. I got to get it flipped back then. Flip left, right. That would have been a move to the left. Do you get what I'm saying? Then I would have a different function. In fact, why don't you guys tell me now, what would, here, I'll put it right on a spot. What would the red function be now? Say it in terms of f of x. I'm going to give a pause while I walk around and see you're in the right spots. Okay, so the red one has just been moved to the right 5, so you go f of x minus 5. There we go. Could it be like two things? Sure, we could move it to the right and up, or we could flip it and move it up, or, you know, there's a lot of options. I'll just do one like that. Let's say I move it to the right and up here. Then I'd have to check this point right here and see how far did I go to the right. I went 5 to the right. How far did I go up? I went up 8. And yes, you can do two things at once. Okay, next topic I want to talk about is This is one, this is kind of a golden oldie. You haven't done this in a long time. Hold on. Technical issues there. What happens if, go back to where I was, and I say, let's drag this guy out of here. What is f of 2? Get your head around that for a minute. F of 2. We haven't done this for a month. Who can talk me through this? You think you can do it? What do you think, A? AL? I don't say names on the video, so go ahead. Okay, you're munching. Okay, I'll come back to you. It's okay. It's a hungry time of day. Yes?
Would it just be
X equals 2 is a line that goes like this. But what's the important part of it? So, but my point is there's an answer to this, and it's not to just draw that line. That line helps. Yes? Yeah, you go over 2 and you go up, like you were saying, on this line, but the important spot is right there. And you say it's 3. Raise your hand if you actually had that on your paper. Okay, good. F of 2 is 3. All right, let's do another one like that. What is, oh, question? I heard a wait. All right, what is f of 0? Now, the thing I think helps on these is asking yourself, did I tell you the x or did I tell you the y? Because I can tell you the x and you have to figure out y, or I can tell you the y and you have to figure out x. So did I tell you the x or the y? I told you the x, because this is normally f of x, right? All right, so I told you the x was 0. And by that saying that, I was like saying, okay, so the x, which is all these numbers, I should zoom in on the x is 0, which is right there. And it actually happens to also be touching the function right there, so the answer is 0. Do you get f of 0 equals 0 means the point 0, comma 0? All right, so again, do you get really, if I say f of 5 is 7, do you get, I just said the point, what? 5, comma 7? All right. Is that point on this function? No, it's not. So that actually wouldn't be valid for this function, but give me another point that would be valid for this function. F of what would be what? You make it up. There's 3 big ones that are obvious. Sir. F of negative 5 would be 1. Do you guys see where he's talking about? He was talking about that one. Give me a different one, Mr. M. You got it. And he was talking about the point negative 2, comma 3, which is right there. Okay, awesome. All right, so now let's go backwards. Instead of me telling you the x, how about if I tell you the f of x? Have I told you before what f of x is? It's really y. So if I say f of x is 3, then do you get, I just basically said, oh, y is 3, and you got to figure out what x has to be? Yes? And here it is. Y is 3 is this line right here, and that's where it touches. That's the magical spot, and you say it's 2. So I could say f of 2 equals 3. I would have accepted that. Or you said x is 2, I think. Oh, it's a totally good answer also. Raise your hand if you understand that. You're good with this. Okay, good. Now we're going to have to step it up a little notch because you weren't tested on too many like that, because some of those would be like R2s. What if I said 3 f of x is equal to, let me see, 9. There we go. Ooh, that's going to stretch your brain. So math is best done just one step at a time. Don't try to figure out the whole big picture. Just do one little thing. Wouldn't it be nice if it was just f of x all by itself? So Sam, how do we do that? Get f of x alone. Correct, sir. And I now have f of x is equal to 9 divided by 3 is 3. Cool. Am I done? No, but I've got the first step done. Mr. K, what do you think? On the y. Y is 3, is right there. And so I can tell that that goes with a point. That point right there. How would you say your answer? What do you think the answer is? X must equal 2. Would I have accepted it if you'd have said f of 2 is 3? Yeah, I would have, because you get the idea that 2 goes with 3. All right. And the last, most challenging kind. Let's see who can rise to the occasion. It's been a while. It's been at least a month since you've done this. What if I say f of 5x is equal to 3? Figure out what x would have to be. I'm going to let you struggle with this one for a minute. Okay, this is a tough one. Do you remember me scribbling this out when we did these? You remember me saying, okay, we got to figure out f of what makes 3. That's a pretty easy question. That makes it just into f of what is 3. And can you figure out f of what makes 3? What is it? F of what? F of 2 makes 3. Then, once you have that, I can remove this and say, therefore, logically, that must equal that. 5x must equal 2. And so, we just had a little equation, 5x equals 2, and I bet you can solve it. What do you do? Bye-bye. X equals 2/5. Who had that before I said it? Ooh, a lot of you. I'm impressed. This class is a really sharp class, I have to tell you. I looked at your scores. There's a lot of people with really high top 20 scores. Like literally, in this room, I've got probably 12 people that have 17 or above on the top 20. Okay, in one of my other classes, I only have 2 people. Okay, so yeah, this is a loaded class. All right, so I got to expect more of you. All right, take a look at this one. Give me the order. 1, 2, 3. What should be first? And don't forget, use the words like horizontal and vertical. Words like stretch factor or shrink factor. This time, I want you to compare it with the kid that I pair you to and see if you got the same answers. There is more than one right way, but I want all of you to start on the inside. Okay? And that way your answers will compare better with the kid next to you. All right? I'm going to pair you. Okay. Dice of Destiny. Who should I call on? Row 1. Third person. That's you, AJ. Tell me, what do you think was first? Left 1 is correct. Okay, now we're done on the inside. Now we move to the outside. On the outside, do you trust the stuff? Yes, so if it seems like it's times 4, it actually is times 4. So that's a vertical, what? Stretch factor. Factor 4. Okay, good. And then how about that 7? And don't make the mistake of adding the 7 and the 4. Some kids do that, and they don't understand the order that you have to do stuff. Right? Remember how this times here prevents you from adding those two because multiply has to happen before the plus. So that 7 could have been at the end. It would have been a lot easier. And that just means what? Up 7. How many of you guys had it in the right order? All right. Why is this a particularly easy one? Because what's the complicated part? Yes? Inside's the complicated part. All right, try this one. There's so many little words to get right. Just be careful. Being careful really does matter. Like, did I tell you about the Mars mission or not? Yeah. Okay. Whole mission destroyed, all based on one person making one calculation mistake. and it was about feet to meters. Was there a hand? Yes. We actually sometimes say how many steps and sometimes we don't. I'm not telling you. Hopefully you know how many things have to be done. Okay, compare with the kid next to you. I'll pause for a second while you do that. Okay, Dice of Destiny. Who should I ask? It's row 5. Person 4. Boom, that's you. Yeah, you. What do you think? Left 1, and you are right. And a lot of kids will be like, what? It seems like it should be the other one first. Well, remember, if you were on the outside, that one would have been first. But it's in the opposite of normal order. So nice job catching that. Number 2, what do you think? Shrink factor 1/3. So many things to forget there. You are completely right. Good job. It's easy to forget and think it's a stretch. Once you do change it to shrink, it's easy to forget to change the 3 to a 1/3. Okay, number 3, we move to the outside. Let's pick on somebody else. Row 1, person, last person. Yes, you can do it. There's nobody there, so it's you. He got out of his in the bathroom or something. You're doing the outside now. So which of these two should go first? And you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't there just one thing there? There's 2 things there. The negative. That negative is a reflection, right? I could have put a 1 there if I was going to be nice, but I wasn't nice. Okay, so that -1 means it's a reflection. What kind of reflection? Vertical reflect. And then, last but not least, the 7. And it's up 7. Some kids go, but isn't it a -7? Look at it. Is it a -7? No, the negative is after the 7. That means the 7 isn't negative. All right, good. How many of you would have had that spot on? All right, sweet. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Now, domain and range. A quick domain and range that gets a lot of people. Let me see if I can get any of you. Let's say it's a flipped square root, which would look kind of like that. That's a reflected square root. Do you know the domain and range of that? I'm going to pause while you give that one a try. All right, so this one is a challenging one. Domain. Do you get that domain is about that direction? Okay, so if I look at this function from that direction, I like to sometimes put it on the x-axis. It goes from here over. And how would I say that? I'd say from 0 to infinity. And that's the part most people had right. Bracket on the 0. Raise your hand if you had that part right. It's the other part that a lot of people screw up. All right? Who thinks they have it? What do you think, sir? Negative infinity is first, yes, and so many people are going to be hurriedly erasing right now because you gotta be careful what order. A lot of people said it was to infinity or to negative infinity, but they had it at the second part. So finish it off for me. You are correct with a bracket. All right. Now why? Because the range goes this way. Does it go up forever? No, that's a dot there. Does it touch at 0? Yeah, it does. Does it go forever this way? Yes. And if you get confused on which way that is, you might want to do this. Negative infinity, positive infinity. That's positive infinity. This is negative infinity. Now that helps some people to get this straight. Okay? Yes? Okay, good question. You always have to have these in order, and I have a lot of people that'll say this. You have to have these in order from smallest to biggest. Isn't this like the ultimate small thing? That is the smallest thing of them all. So, whenever you're in parentheses like this, you always have to have your numbers in order from smallest to biggest. And another way to say it is you want it from low to high. It has a low of negative infinity and a high of 0. Okay? So I'm doing that one to keep you from making that mistake. I know what the common mistakes are, and one of the reasons today might feel kind of tricky is because I'm going over all the common mistakes. All right, this one, toughest one, 1 over x. Do you remember it? Make the graph of simple 1 over x. Hasn't been moved or anything. Make sure you include the asymptotes, otherwise you don't have a real graph. Make the graph and then figure out its domain and range. This is the tricky kind where you got to say everything except this. Do you remember how to say a domain where it's everything works but this one number? Pause for a second. And if you have trouble with it, why don't you check the kid next to you that I paired you with and ask him. I'm going to pause while you work with him. Okay, I got to speed up a smidge, so I'm going to jump right to it. Did you have an asymptote line here and a graph that goes through those two important spots? I'll make them red. They're that important. That spot and that spot. Raise your hand if you had that general idea. Okay, good. How do you do the domain then? Who's confident? Yes? Yeah, go ahead. Dive into it. Negative infinity to 0. Perfect. So it's like negative infinity to positive infinity, except this one little exception, it can't touch 0. Raise your hand if you actually knew that. Okay, good. And the other one goes the exact same way, except, well, actually, you write the exact same thing. This, I'll just put the ditto marks because it's the exact same thing, because it's talking about this direction, but it also can't touch 0 as it's making its travels. All right, moving on to this kind. Oh, question, yes. All right. Okay. Wait. So on the domain, do you get domains talking about this direction? What's the one thing it can't touch as it moves from left to right? 0. So this is saying everything except 0. That's the way to say everything except 0. Yes?
Do you have to have the weird dotted lines in between them?
Yes, the weird dotted lines are required. If you didn't have them on your test, you lost points. That's called an asymptote line. And it says right in the directions, that's how we get you. In the directions, it says include all asymptote lines. But most graphs don't have them. So you get kind of used to graphing along, and you're like, oh, I didn't even notice that the directions were always saying include asymptote lines if it has them. Because only this function has the weird dotted lines. Okay? All right, moving on. We need to get to this part where I say, what's f of 3? I hope it's laughably easy. Figure it out. F of 3. What do you say, sir? How'd you get it? I think it's a 3. 3 in. Okay. I know I was covering it up so you couldn't see it on the board. So 2 times the 3 plus the 4 makes 6 plus 4 makes 10. Raise your hand if you had 10. Good. Next, what if I say 5f of 3, hint we just figured out f of 3 a second ago, minus 1. This looks so complicated, but math, just do it one step at a time. What's first step? Wait, f of 3, yes. So we're going to do f of 3 first, which goes up in there, and you would get what out? Wait, one thing at a time. What was f of 3? F of 3 is 10. So now I replace this with a 10. And this means 5 times 10 minus 1. Final answer? 49. Raise your hand if you had 49. Okay, good. Now I'm going to make it a little more complicated. We're slowly walking you up to the hardcore ones. I'm not telling you x this time. I'm telling you f of x. Do you know what to do with it? What do you think? What'd you do? Perfect, because that f of x is 12, so you just make that 12. Nice job. And now what's the first step in solving it? And I have 8 equals 2x. Final answer, x equals 4. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, cool. All right, I think you're good enough at those. How about if I have one function eat the other function? This is exactly why 7. You know what I'm about to say. 7, 8, 9. All right. Anyway, if f of g of x just happened, which one got eaten? G got eaten. Tell me what that comes out to. Some of you are like, but you didn't tell me what number x was. You're right. So just have the one function eat the other function, and we have to leave the x in there because we don't know what x is. Here's the f function. And I'll make it green. He's eaten the g, which is x squared minus 2. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, cool. And last but not least, the chart kind. If I asked you, what's f of negative 1? Sorry, I don't have time. Sorry, I have to move because I got to give you that quiz. You can talk to me in a moment privately. What's f of negative 1? Here's f of negative 1. See why it's 8? All right. So what's, wait a minute, I should finish that. So what's f of x is 4? Completely different. What do you think, sir? Because f of x section, find the 4, and then it happens where x is 2. All right, I agree. How many of you think could have done that yourself? Okay, good. Then you're ready. That little quiz that's on your desk. Hand them back, please. Give it a shot. Ideally, we're going to grade that thing in about 9 minutes. It's 9 questions, so you have about a minute per question. Start. I'm going to pause while we do that. Okay, so a lot of kids said 2C was the toughest, one of the toughest ones on here. F of g of 2. A little bit of coaching. I always tell you do things one step at a time. What's step 1? Do g of 2. Once you got g of 2, it's a number. I'm not going to tell you the answers here. I want you to do it yourself, but I have a little coaching. Okay? See if you can improve yours. Once you do g of 2, you stick the 2 into the g function, and it turns into a fairly big number, and you put that here, and then you do f of that fairly... Oh, it's on the table. Sorry, you're right. That's a table question. First, I got to find g of 2 on the table. All right? It's not a fairly big number. G of 2 on the table is a pretty small number. All right? Once I know that number, let's say it was a 3. It's not. Let's say it was. Then I do f of 3. Just figure out what g of 2 is first. All right, the other one that I get asked a lot is 1C. Problem 1C. And that one says x when 2f of x is 20. How many of you knew that you'd start that problem by dividing both sides by 2? If you didn't know that, you should try that way, because then it'll be f of x equals 10, and that's much simpler. So there's a couple little hints, and we're going to grade here in 1 minute. Yeah, you can change it. This is just for you. Remember, this is not going in the grade book. I'm giving you some hints to help you. If with those hints you still can't get it, that's going to be a sign you really need to study that tonight. Last thoughts on when you can get my help. You can get my help tomorrow. Sorry, not tomorrow. Tonight after school. Tomorrow's a Wednesday, so normally it'd be a mass day, but it's not a mass day because we got the PSAT thing going on. So your next chances for help are tonight after school or Thursday morning. But remember, I told you 7:30 is the earliest I can get here. Okay, so I'm going to plan on trying to be here at 7:30 after that meeting I have. And I'll give you a good quality half hour. But that's all I can give you. So where else could you seek help? The videos. I recorded the videos for every single day. So you can go back and watch old videos at servervideo.com. All right, here we go. Answers. The answers, number 1 answer is 46. Raise your hand if you had 46. Good, that was a pretty easy one. Part B, as we move to the right there, the answer is x equals 2. Part C, it comes out to, after you figure out f of x is 10, then you stick that in the equation, and you have 10 equals 5x plus 1, and you solve that, and you get 9/5. 9/5 is your final answer. number 2 is, part A is 1. Part B is negative 1. Part C, that one we started together, at G of 2 was 1. So now you got to find F of 1. And you go back onto the chart and find F of 1, and it is negative 1. How many got that one right? Nice. Okay, on to number 3, the bottom ones. F of 2 is 2. What do you think B is? 10 is correct. Nice job. And C, did any of you catch, wait a second please, did any of you catch that there were 2 answers for part C? Excellent, and they are 3 and, it's kind of hard to tell, but I'm going to say negative 1.5. Do you concur? Yes. For 3C, there are 2 answers. All right, there's the bell. It's all the time we have for today. Now.